Ladies and gentlemen, big hairy news.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewy.
Kia ora, Pat. Sorry, I was a bit late. I was just checking a personal message that I got on LinkedIn. It was a genuine message from a genuine person with a relevant point that I cared about, so I had to be delayed.
Oh my gosh. You sound very distant. Are you sitting on your mic again? It seems like it's a long
Hello.
way.
How about that? Hello.
Now you're sounding too close. I was feeling a bit blue. See what I did there? That was a bit of a joke about wearing. It wasn't much of a joke.
Oh, I see what you've done there.
It's a bit of a joke. Not much of a joke.
Very clever.
Bit of a joke.
Very clever.
Thank you. Hey, I'm excited about tonight's show. We have got a guest coming up in just a couple of seconds, Dr. Alex Plum, who has done some research into using some quite specific metrics. You know, like sometimes when you're trying to compare people groups, whatever, there can be a disparity based on lots of intangibles. But Alex has done some research or looked into some research to do with how Pākehā versus Māori get treated based on alcohol level in their blood when it comes to sentencing. So it's quite a tangible, measurable thing. You probably won't be surprised at the results, but that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So it's quite nice. You know, we often ask that question, what's your metric for that? Well, the metric for this is no previous criminal or no previous convictions, I think, and blood alcohol levels about the same. And I don't want to burn the lead or keep my powder dry, but you might be prepared to take a guess of what the outcomes are going to be of how Māori get sentenced compared to how Pākehā get sentenced. We'll look at that.
It's going to make me angry, isn't it?
It doesn't take much to make you angry, but it probably. It's like one of those, I didn't want to be not disrespectful or dismissive, but I kind of wanted to go, thank you for the research giving us the most obvious answer the world has ever seen and we all already knew. But it's always good to have these sort of these results. So then when people do want to argue with us about everyone gets treated the same under the law, you're like, some of the research shows. But we'll talk more about that shortly. Also, Christopher Bishop was on Breakfast this morning with Kieran McAnulty talking about disbanding regional councils. Also, they did a little bit about the RSP, which I haven't mentioned in the show notes, so that's going to be interesting to look at. And Chewy, you might be surprised, but the government was advised before they started to do a crackdown on 18 and 19-year-olds that it might end up causing a worse outcome for those 18 and 19-year-olds than what they were talking about. But, you know, Louise Upston, well, we can ignore advice if we want to. Yeah, you're going to be angry tonight. Let's just say that from the outset. You're going to be an angry Wookiee tonight.
Hey, just before we kick in,
Yeah.
I just let's dip in and see how the government ministers are doing. If you just want to pop up that little screen I've got there for you.
Consider it popped. There it goes.
There we go. There's your favourite, Erica Stanford, doing a big old dog whistle there. So
Maths under national, teach kids times tables. Maths under Labour, addressing issues of power, social justice and equity in the community and wider world. Okay, so
education's woke under Labour and we'll be blah, but now we just do times tables. It's just this, or the whole thing on social media at the moment is this. This is so close to iwi, not Kiwi, Kiwi and iwi. It just gives me the heebies. And even our old mate Uffendale went to war with Tanya Waikato today and got owned so badly that he had to delete five posts. He got so comprehensively owned by the community. The community rallied around to bully Uffindell into deleting his posts, which he did. So there's
no bed legs involved at any stage, like none.
There were many mentions of bed legs.
Yeah, okay. I wonder if tonight, because we're going to be talking, I don't know whether it's nanomils or nanometers or whatever the measurement is, but I wonder if by the end of the night we're going to go back to, numbers being woke. I wonder if that's going to be the summary of tonight's show. Your numbers are woke, but numbers are numbers. Yeah, but they're woke because I don't like them. Maybe. Mind you, we should probably be more professional and apparently less biased, Chewy, to be sitting in the centre and saying, I wonder what this interview will be about. But look, let me tell you, what it'll be about is about the things we already knew, many people have already talked about, and to be honest, things that we need to keep getting told to make sure we can address the issues that come out with it. So in saying all of that, from AUT, which is now Auckland University of Technology, let's welcome to the show Dr. Alex Plum. Alex, welcome to the madness.
Thank you for having me.
I've got a lot of feelings about this, but let's get to your article on the conversation. Let me show it to the whānau so everyone knows what's going on. This is your article on the conversation. Māori face harsher sentences than New Zealand Europeans for similar drink driving offences with lasting consequences. Recent analysis from the Understanding Policy Delivery Program has already shown systemic bias at the policing stage, where all other factors are held constant. Māori were 11% more likely to be prosecuted than Pākehā. Like I said, I didn't want to be dismissive, but this is not a new phenomenon. Here's an article from, I think, 2018, 2019, Māori imprisoned at twice the rate of Europeans for the same crime. So in saying that, this is not a new idea, or this is not has not been seen in the data before. Tell us about looking specifically at the drink driving results and what that began to show us when it comes to Māori and European New Zealanders being treated in the courtrooms.
Yes, that's a good point. So there's a long discussion about that Maori are overrepresented in the criminal justice system. So that's nothing anyone kind of denies. The question behind is, do they actually, what is the underlying reason for this difference? And is the difference still there if we try to figure out similar offenses? And finding similar offenses is actually pretty tricky, even in cases, for example, you have a minor assault, the interpretation of a minor assault, how does the victim feel about it might be differing. So there's a bit of gray area still there where you can argue, oh yeah, okay, so there might be in some cases somehow comparable, but they might be still different, so you can't really compare each other. And that is a bit of the beauty of these drink driving and we try to use, because drink driving cases, you have a reading, so there's a level written down how much you wear over the limit, and that's kind of the point. We try to say, okay, these are in front of the court, in the eyes of the court, actually pretty much very identical offenses, and there's not much to discuss about whether they are different. They are actually pretty similar.
So what you're saying, and I want to bring up another part of the article, what you're saying is, if there was no person in the courtroom, if this was just the data and nothing else, if there wasn't a person to look at, it would be difficult to find a big disparity between the crimes.
That would be our expectation. So there's always the data doesn't cover everything. That's one of the limitations. So the one limitation we do not know is, for example, if the offender had a wish to go for a different sentence. That can always happen, and that's something we cannot observe. It is something there might be questions around, why does a offender want to receive a more serious sentence? So because it normally goes with more negative effects along, in the sense of it is also recorded, and it's in your criminal record, and it is written there that you have this higher sentence received. So there are downsides of going there. So there's a bit of room still left about what happened actually, but it shouldn't be too far away, especially if we just account for more aspects when we look at the persons themselves, and when we assume, okay, they have similar or almost identical economic backgrounds, so they are better off, they are employed and stuff like that. This also impacts the likelihood and the expectation of the outcome, and there you kind of expect, okay, if everything is very much the same across so many dimensions, then we should also see pretty much no differences in the outcomes.
You speak of the way that you tried to maybe get rid of some of the bias or some of the unknowns. In the actual report, you say we focused on first-time drink driving cases using alcohol readings, which is just what you've been talking about, as an objective, standardized measure of offence severity. Our core question: do Māori face a higher likelihood of a community-based sentence instead of the more common and least severe outcome of a fine? The results suggested they do. Did the results suggest at any place why they do, or just that observed that they do?
So our strategy was in the end to, in a certain way, find a doppelganger in a copy. So you have a European and you try to find a copy of that European in the data of the Maori, in the sense of they have similar backgrounds economically and family-wise, driver license-wise, and all the factors. So in those sentences, I just gave a very brief description. We have a much, much longer list of restrictions we place. So it's a first-time drink driving offender. They don't have any additional offenses. They were in the country for a certain period. They didn't have a hospitalization at that date. So we could rule out that there were any other factors kind of at play at this specific offense date, which could have impacted the sentencing. And
so what I hear you saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you engineered it so that the participants you were comparing were as close as they could be to being the same.
Yeah.
Although we acknowledge it can never be perfect, but would this data be the first time that researchers have engineered this to try and be as close as they can?
I'm not aware of any study that tries to get as close as we have, because we have in New Zealand this unique setting where we have access to a lot of different data sets and combine them. So we have access, for example, to inland revenue data set where we know the employment history and whether also to MSD about benefit uptake. And we have the whole history of prior court charges. So, and in this case, we exclude everyone who had anything prior which impacted it. And therefore, I guess there are some cases and some other studies, and often these studies, they look more into serious sentences, serious offenses, because their judges have larger discretionary. They can decide what type of sentence they are taking. But in our case, we are going deliberately for a very common offense, because it's on the one side widespread, but also because there's a certain default sentence which is used, and to see whether there's still variation happening, because it is, in our view, kind of the most objective way of finding those very similar persons.
Chewy, jump in, sir. Thoughts and feelings.
So this seems to me another block in the big study that was done on systemic harshness of sentences towards non-Europeans. But this, you've gone even deeper still to find an identical sort of crime and something that is measurable, such as the blood alcohol content, and you've found a really clear correlation there.
In the correlation, in which sense? You mean?
Oh, that there you've mentioned that there's sorry if I didn't catch this correctly, 11% harsher sentences for Māori for essentially the same offence.
The numbers are a bit different because the 11% they refer to a prior study about policing. They were in that case they were more likely to prosecute. In our case, the raw data is about a gap of 3 times higher, and then when you control for all these factors, which makes a difference because Maori offenders are on average younger, they are living in more deprived areas, and when you try to filter out all these factors which might impact the sentencing, then you still get a difference of 2 times, which is 100% more likely to receive a more serious sentence compared to a New Zealand European.
I think I can actually read that, but I've got it highlighted to read next from the article. A clear pattern emerges. Our results show that despite having similar alcohol levels at the time of offending, 9.9% of Māori offenders received a community-based sentence compared with 3.3% of New Zealand Europeans. We also found Māori offenders are on average younger and more often parents, more often female, and more likely to live in a highly deprived neighbourhood. Our analysis controlled for offence characteristics and a range of demographic and socioeconomic factors, but even after these adjustments, Māori remain twice as likely as New Zealand Europeans to receive a community-based sentence. And the article talks about lasting consequences near the end here, and I won't read it out verbatim, but you talk about a younger person who is just getting started in the workforce. So if you're likely to get a more serious conviction, that goes on your record. That might impede your ability to get a job. That might impede your ability to go up the work rank. So there are long-lasting effects from these convictions that Māori are receiving disproportionately to Europeans. Yes?
Correct. I think that's kind of very crucial to keep in mind about conviction and sentencing. So it's not just that you receive it and you just have to pay your fine, or you to have your community sentence and do those hours. It is something that, and I think it's really important to keep in mind, is that it is in your criminal record, and future employer can look into it, and background checks are very common and often done. And even if it's not really immediately related, it sends a signal to future employers, and especially also nowadays where we have a very tight labor market. So we have a lot of applicants for few jobs, and then there's a sorting going on. The employer sees these different applications, and each of these ones give another signal, and it's one signal whether you have a conviction, but it's also a signal when you have these different types of conviction, what type of conviction and what type of sentence you received, and that might make it even more challenging on the labor market.
When I hear politicians, political commentators, YouTubers, old men on Facebook say things like, "Oh, there's no such thing as privilege. We're all the same. We all get treated the same, and everywhere there's no one starts off behind the 8 ball." This, to me, would be an absolutely dictionary definition example of what many people would call white privilege. Because what it seems that you're saying is really the only difference could well be a Māori name and maybe a brown face versus a European face. And if that's the only difference, that means that European face is getting a better outcome, is privileged in this area when it comes to the justice system.
One thing we have to add here is when we look at the district courts and we looked at how things are in different groups of district courts, it is something that we do not see systematically across all district courts. So we have a certain pocket which drives this result. There are a lot of district courts where the differences are much smaller. So the default of a fine is handed out for almost everyone, and we see much less differences across ethnicities. But there are few district courts where and these district courts, they have one thing in common. They provide these more serious sentences, in general more frequent, and then also on top of it more often to Maori, so which kind of creates an even larger gap between those ones. So it is nothing we can say there's a systemic difference across all district courts. So there seems to be more related to specific ones.
I mean, we've all heard anecdotal stories the whole time. A colleague of mine, friend of mine, Michelle Acourt, comedian, her daughter is part Māori, has a Māori name, and Michelle would go along to flat meetings when she was about to get her daughter was looking for a new flat. She tells a story on a podcast I did with her. And so Michelle would go with her daughter because the daughter has a Māori name, and the landlord was like, oh, nice middle-class white woman, this kid must be okay. So, this kind of discriminatory things we've heard of from so long before, and this, as you're saying, the systemic racism and bias that's in places like arresting. I wonder, and you don't have to have an opinion on this, Dr. Plum, being an academic, we're just a couple of radio clowns from Dunedin, but I wonder if we could, people watching right now, get these numbers to Mr. Seymour, because he seems to always want to make things all equal based on race. And this is probably an area that if he did choose to make it equal based on race, it might actually be a positive rather than a negative. I don't really have a question in that, Alex. I'm just sort of thinking about what this means for the country. Well, what does it mean for the country? What does it mean moving forward? What do we need to do, those of us who accept these results and can see the problems within the system?
That's a really good and really tricky question, I think. It has a bit of this legal sphere where I'm not a legal scholar. So it's kind of the one thing we need to keep in mind is like we need this consistency, and things need to be, and I think should be acknowledged by everyone, things needed to be looked at independently of the ethnicity of a person. And that's the ideal case where we want to move to. But I guess also we have to reflect on our understanding of how we do punishment in general, or how we consider punishment and this system in general, because we are very open and very transparent about convictions and sharing this information to the labor market, and it can create much harm. So this is one thing I heard so often with so many people about things happening when they were young, and the record entry, it doesn't disappear very quickly. And therefore, I guess we need a general discussion of, is the way we think about crime and how we want to tackle it and deal with offenders, is it in the best interest for the offender and for society? And what is kind of like more the long-term idea behind reintegration and giving persons a second chance, and not to have a too long scarring effect of situations? So
Mr. Luxon has been saying recently it's time for the country to have grown-up conversations around various things. Perhaps, Chewy, we need to have a bit of a grown-up conversation about this issue as well. Alex, thank you for joining us tonight. Chewy, have you got anything you want to wrap up with? Questions, comments for Dr. Plum?
No, nothing specific. Sorry, Pat.
Alex, it's been a great pleasure having you on tonight. The research that you've done now, is this like a step one, and what does it go to next for you when it comes to looking into these issues? Is there more research bouncing off the back of this, or is this like a one and done, and this is now out in the public and for people to use?
So it's actually the first step of a second one, and it will take a bit, because my second step, which is kind of like the prologue, or is it epilogue? I think it's epilogue, or the next story after that. It's looking into the labor market consequences and seeing whether we find, like, how does having a conviction shape it? And we can here look into similar trajectories when we have something around someone who just have a violation just above the limit. So very small violation. How much does it actually change the labor market trajectory? And what are the drivers for changes in employment and earnings? So
well, Alex, anything else that you find out, and any more research that you do, any more data that you've got out there? You've got our contact details now. We'd love to have you on again. Thank you so much for joining us this evening to have a chat about this. what I think is a very serious issue and quite emblematic of a bigger, broader issue within our New Zealand society. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
All the best. Catch you
Thank
later.
you.
People are asking where they can read that. Let me just hit save, and I'm putting it into our show notes on YouTube. Boom. So probably if anyone would like to get that and you're watching us on YouTube, if you refresh the YouTube, it'll probably pop up in the show notes. I've just put it in there. I'll also put it on Facebook, or if anyone watching who's got access to Facebook, I can see out there, our Facebook, you moderators, feel free to grab it and wake up on Facebook now though as well. Chewy, mate, let me give you this story. This is a bit inane, but I'll show you. I came across the story with Dr. Plum at 5:15. And I was like, oh, crap, if only we found this sooner. And I could have organised it. And luckily enough, put in one phone call, managed to get Dr. Plum, and very graciously he said he'd come on tonight. So I was looking at the show tonight going, oh, this is going to be an interesting show. And then at 5:15, 5:30, I'm like, oh, I'm really looking forward to this because this is right up our alley. This is right up our alley to be able to show people, demonstrate to people, repeat to people, no, we're not all equal. We should be, but we're not. There's things happening around the country right now based on race, based on other things, based on, our socio-economic status where we are not. And it's very good to be able to talk this out.
Yeah, I'd love this stuff, and I wish it would get brought up more when David Seymour wades into everything and goes, everybody should be equal under the law. And I go, have we ever been?
You go, yes, we agree, David. Can you make it like that now, please?
Like that's the thing, is every interaction a non-white New Zealander has with the police, and especially if you're Māori and Pacific Islander, it's like rolling it's like Dungeons and Dragons. You're rolling at a disadvantage every time. And so every interaction you have with law enforcement or the courts, you roll again at another disadvantage. So you're more likely to be stopped. You're more likely to be treated harshly by the police. You're more likely to be declined something like diversion. Then when you make it to the courts, you're going to be sentenced harsher than a non-Māori, non-Pacific Islander, a European. That's not right. Like, this is pegging every sort of justice alarm that my little ADD brain goes, this just isn't fair. And look, we had some dumbass crunchies at the top of the show that go, well, just don't drink and drive. You completely missed the fucking point.
Yeah. Or they chose not to see
it. Yeah, because they're too dumb to see it. But it wasn't about the fact that it was Māori getting caught for drunk driving. It was comparing New Zealand Europeans and Māori being caught for the same offence and trying to see if they're treated fairly. But by all rights, if the law was fair and balanced and equally applied, someone that's caught for the same offence at the same level should receive, broadly speaking, the same punishment.
Yeah.
And that's what this study shows, that doesn't happen. And that dovetails quite nicely into every other study we have looked at about why we have more Māori in prison, because they're sentenced more harshly, they're there for longer. And everybody just goes, I don't know how we ended up with this problem. And as you mentioned, Pat, it becomes a generational punishment.
Yeah. Yeah, that was quite big actually, that this young 20-year-old who's done something stupid and deserves a sort of punishment, sure. But then again, you're talking about the like structural racism. So what happens is you are 2 times as likely to be Māori and have that happen to you with these research that's happened now, which means you're going to be 2 times as likely to be passed over for that job because of your criminal history. You're going to be 2 times as likely to not get the next advancement because you got to be driving the ute in the next way, and you don't have a license anymore, or they don't want to trust you with the license, or So it just goes on, and then it becomes generational. And then that particular family doesn't get necessarily out of poverty, or maybe they become the working poor. Whereas the other guys, having fewer convictions, have a more likely chance of being able to step up one, and then their kids are a bit better off, and they get to step up one. And that's what generational issues like this do. They continue the cycle.
And don't forget, the shitty cherry on the top of this shitty sundae is that at the end of the road, you die 20 years early.
Yeah.
Hooray! You know, this is why the shit needs more focus, and this is why New Zealand Europeans Pākehās need to get over themselves and stop being so precious about it.
Yep.
Redress over something, or looking at something to see if we've got a problem, isn't oppression.
And this is not new. And for those of you who have been fighting the good fight with these information to your racist Uncle Bob on Facebook or whoever, just remember, and I'll show it again so this is clear to you. Because sometimes people will say, well, Māori commit more crime, so they're going to get a harsher penalty. The thing about this research is it's using a measurable mathematical number, and their backgrounds are about as same as they could to compare like for like. But this is not new. This is basically 10 years old. This article, right? 2016, Māori in prison at twice the rate of Europeans for the same crime. So 10 years ago, Māori are twice as likely to go to jail than Pākehā when convicted of assault, sparking fresh calls from MPs for a government inquiry into a biased criminal justice system. Ministry of Justice figures revealed in 2015, 26.3% of Māori convicted of assault when in prison compared to less than 13% of Europeans. This is the important part, when both were found guilty of the same crime. This is not new, whānau. In fact, it's the opposite of new. It's another layer of evidence to be able to say to the Seymours of the world, please, can you make us be treated the same based on race under the law? Please? Because at the moment, it's pretty bad. You're worried about someone getting into med school, right? Mind you, you don't talk about the rural advantage for getting into med school, but Māori advantage, you worry about that, but you're not at all worried about Māori going to prison twice as much as Europeans. You know, I know which one I would think is more important. Taking someone's freedom away, putting them in jail with that record and that spiral down potentially for the rest of their lives, or having to wait for another year before you can get into med school. I know which one I think is more serious. It's just bullshit. But the good news is, 387 at most if we vote, so get everyone voting. I thought I was about to say, so get voting everyone. I was saying, it's not time. No. So get everyone to vote. 387 at most if we vote, says Gold for the Coalition of Chaos. All right. Now, a couple of notices for you, because often when we have a guest, we don't want them hanging around through our notice hell. So let's just get to it now. In 1 week and 1 day, Chewy, open public meeting in Dunedin for people who are around, people who want to come, people who want to travel. We've heard about people travelling from Christchurch down, from Invercargill up and around the Motu. I wonder if maybe we'll do it on the night. Who's travelled the furthest? Maybe we can do a T-shirt giveaway. We are thinking about having some merch there as well. So if you want to come along, we're thinking about having a few things. Obviously, we can't have like a huge amount of teas and stuff because we often print to order, but we're thinking about having a few things there as well. If you're interested, bring your pingers along. Mm-hmm. Our health system is in a dire emergency. Open public meeting, equitable healthcare for all. Sophie Barker, the Dunedin Mayor, Dr. Gary Payinda, award-winning podcaster and emergency department consultant, Craig Renning, award-winning podcaster and CTU economist. Attendees will have the opportunity for Q&A following the presentations, and some dudes called Big Hairy News. I don't know what that's all about. Adu Cafe, ADJO, Adu Cafe, 333 George Street, Dunedin. It starts at 6:30 p.m. The open meeting starts at 6:30 p.m. Now, that's for the general public. Of course, if you're friends of BHN and you like to do a podcast, if you know somebody who knows somebody, then we're going to do a 5:30 podcast meetup. Now, it's not going to be like when we did a podcast meetup in Auckland. We were there for like 3 hours, HOE. Like, it went for a long time. It was good fun. But this is going to be more of a short, sharp, we'll hang out for a bit, we'll say good day, and then we'll be getting into the public meeting. So podcast meetup at 5:30, public meeting at 6:30. Whilst we're here as well, I just wanted to let you know that the shop is up and running. We have an opportunity if you want to participate in the Christmas party. By participating, we mean, chuck their wee donation that way. We've made a pledge that any money that comes through on the donation for Christmas donation, 100% of that goes to the Christmas party. And that's happening on December the 6th. I'm sure there'll be some photos and stuff. We might even jump on and do a live stream, maybe jump into TikTok or something through the night, as long as I don't burn my house down like I nearly did last time. So BHN Christmas party is going to be the night of the 6th. And if you want to be a part of it, easy to get a hold of us. Head to the BHN website, bhn.nz, and go into the donations there. While you're there, a bunch of this stuff as well. There's a lot of specials going on at the moment. I won't bore you again with them tonight, but basically all the details there of the specials we're running at the moment. We're giving away free enamel pins. We're giving away free delivery, and we're giving away T-shirts and hoodies. A second T-shirt hoodie at half the price, 50% off. We won't go into it. Went into it last night. You can read it all for yourself there. That's where we're at. It'd be interesting. Maybe in the chat you can tell us who's coming on Friday night. Put a few thoughts in there.
I am.
I thought you could make it.
Well, it depends. If someone else sends me a message on LinkedIn that needs my attention, maybe I won't. But I plan to at this stage. Yes.
Yeah, that's cool, Whānau. I wasn't expecting Chew to be there. It's kind of like when we do other meetups. He goes for a walk with the dog out to the beach instead, or that kind of stuff.
It's the porridge. It's the porridge that's going to ensure my attendance.
Cool bananas, Whānau. Oh, look, there's some people being there. I'll be there in spirit. Yeah, not me. We're not ready. Oh, see, look, this is a bum, and everyone's saying we're not going to be there. LinkedIn. Will Chewy turn up for porridge? Oh, there you go. The question was asked.
Yeah.
Loki's mum's going.
Too hot. This one is too cold. This one is just right.
Kiwi Skirt's coming down. Kiwi Skirt's
Nice.
driving down. May not be there for that, but,
Have a
be there
lovely
for the party the next day.
reviving, restorative porridge will perk you right up.
Now the chat's going too fast for me to pay attention to. I'll
Hey,
be there. I'll
hit
be
that-
there.
Hit that super chat, Pat.
I'll be there. Okay, you can look. I haven't read it. You want to do it?
Speaking of dire emergencies, firefighters strike again tomorrow lunchtime. Please come and support if you can. Dovetailing into that, Pat.
Hang on.
could you-
Hang on. Mr. Duncan Garner told us all that he was personally
he fixed it.
responsible for the firefighters getting their pay increase. Hang on. Something's not right here, Broseph. Duncan Garner told us because of an interview he did on his show, and he used the word the interview was responsible for all those problems going away. I don't
Duncan
understand.
Garner's full of shit. That's why.
I don't understand.
He concentrates too much on writing his little speeches while he eye fucks the camera, steering right down the middle of it. Sort of dovetailing out of the fact that they're going on strike at the moment. Chuck my screen up for everybody.
Got so bossy. Get so bossy.
So there's been a couple of fires around the place because it's windy
Dunedin.
down here at the moment. Someone's trampoline went into a set of high tension power lines and set a public a paddock on fire, and Belcluth's on fire.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Someone's trampoline took off. So when Belclutha called out for more help, the Dunedin command and control unit was heading down there. It didn't even make it out of Dunedin. It had to coast down a hill to a motorway off ramp. The command and control unit couldn't make it there. Now, this is happening so often and in so many places. I have serious concerns that, like, a fire is a big enough emergency, right? A wildfire even more so. But what about a bigger emergency? How much of our fire and rescue equipment would be serviceable, say, if the Alpine fault went tomorrow?
Yeah.
Like, this is the thing, the lack of foresight and vision. And I just can't see why the government goes, yeah, we'll nickel and dime the firefighters people will be out on our side for that. So yes, if you're able to support the firefighters tomorrow, I strongly recommend that you do it.
Wasn't it Simeon Brown that went, oh, yeah, I'm sure one or two fire engines need a bit of work?
Oh, no, there was David Seymour. But basically, I would vote for both David Seymour and Simeon Brown, even if he's unrelated to the discussions on this. You know, those hoses are high pressure, right? Maybe they need testing on those two. I reckon we could get some distance records.
If you're wondering about the fires down here, this is basically what the lower half of the South Island is doing at the moment. It's basically I love that movie. It's a stupid movie.
It's not a good movie, but I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, same. It's exactly the point. All right. Anything else we need to get to in the chats? No.
I think you got everything. I don't need to boss you around anymore.
I reckon, blooming bitching at me, bossing me around. If you weren't aware that this government doesn't really want to ever have a conversation where they get told what to do, I can imagine these guys would go into a doctor's surgery and the doctor would go, oh, look, Mr. Luxon, you've got a brain tumour, which would explain a lot. You've got a brain tumour. Best course of advice is chemo and radiotherapy. And Luxon would go, yeah, no, we don't have to take all the advice we get. I think actually smoking cigarettes would probably help a bit better and literally do the opposite. Ministers were warned against teen welfare crackdown, documents revealed. Newly released advice show officials urged the government, I'm just going to do this to make it easy for me to read, urged the government against its welfare crackdown on 18 and 19-year-olds, warning it could actually increase the risk of long-term benefit dependency. The Ministry of Social Development also said the tightened eligibility could incentivise teenage pregnancies and keep abuse victims financially reliant on their abusive parents. In a statement, Social Development Minister Louise Upston acknowledged the free and frank advice, but said she did not necessarily agree with all of it. The part she didn't agree with, well, in my opinion, is the part where she realised how much money they could claw back if they did it their way and what it would have to cost if they kept on. That's the bit I reckon that she didn't agree with. That was the part. Our position is very clear. Young people should be in work, in education, or in training, Upston said. Young people should first be supported by their parents. We don't believe our life on welfare is as good as it gets for young people. Said nobody ever.
Yeah.
Right, let's make that clear. Said nobody ever. And then also remember, the official advice says this may actually increase the risk of long-term benefit dependency. This is where you know these guys are dishonest actors. They say with one voice that a life on welfare is bad, yet the policies they're bringing in, the experts are saying, could actually increase the risk of a life on welfare. It is just shocking. This morning on breakfast, the Bish was on with Kieran, and they talked a bit about this. They talked a bit about the situation with this advice coming out today and what it all meant. And they also reflected on how the Prime Minister basically said, well, there's heaps of jobs out there. Just go and work up north. If you're from Dunedin, just go and work in Northland picking kumara. There's plenty of it.
Social Development showed the government ignored warnings that its welfare crackdown on 18 and 19-year-olds could actually increase the risk of them becoming dependent on welfare. From November next year, teenagers will only qualify for job seeker support if their parents earn less than $65,500.
Which, remember, is less than 1.5 parents on minimum wage. So if you've got 2 parents on minimum wage, they can't do it. Minimum wage is like about $48,000, somewhere in that vicinity for a 40-hour week. So if you make it to 69, that's not even 2 full-time minimum wage positions. So just so we're clear on what 69,000 actually is.
Or if they cannot rely on them for financial help. More than 4,000 young people are expected to become ineligible. But when the policy was announced, Prime Minister Christopher Luxon told Breakfast there would be plenty of work for them.
There is work out there. I was up in Dargaville the other day, talking to Coomera, project sector up there. They're desperate for young people, but they also get young people coming and not sticking at the job. And what we've got to say is, we want people to get connected to work, and young people in particular, because it teaches you to show up on time, be part of a team, build a work ethic, all those good things that are part of shaping character and also connecting you to more possibilities. So, and you build skills in the process.
Well, joining us now is Infometrics Chief Executive Brad Olson. Brad,
I got to say, I'm not entirely sure why Brad Olson was the go-to guy for this. This feels like it's more of a social issue than a absolutely financial one. Like, I was a bit confused as to why it was Brad Olson doing this.
For this.
Yeah, but I mean, he talks a bit about the financial impact, so we'll give baby his bone.
Good morning. What do you make of how this sort of stacks up with what the Prime Minister had said? Was that a little bit disingenuous in light of this new finding?
Well, I think that certainly when you look at job opportunities out there for young people at the moment, it is clearly tough. I mean, the youth unemployment rate for 15 to 24-year-olds in the September quarter was 15%. We talk about 5.3% for, the national unemployment rate. It's triple that for young people. In the month of September, we saw 7,800 fewer jobs for 15 to 19-year-olds compared to the same time last year. So, look, job opportunities are tough throughout the country, but certainly a whole lot tougher for young people. Looking through the analysis, I think what's clear is that there is a real focus coming.
TV's going, look at the young people we've filmed. That'll be good B-roll. All the young people.
Through from the government of wanting to move young people off those benefit support levels and effectively, I guess, sort of shift the burden a little bit of where that support comes from. Does it come immediately from the government or does it come from parents themselves?
So there's the first clip, and like I said, I don't know, or maybe I don't know why they got Brad to do it, but he has another part where he's talking about, basically, is it any surprise that that's my point. Is it any surprise that the government's ignoring official advice? Luxon literally said in his first few months, my ministers won't even read them anyway, so why bother? But Chewy, your thoughts? Any thoughts at all before we play the second clip?
I love that Luxon's still trotting out that the Coomera growers of Northland are crying out for workers.
But hang on for freedom. That he didn't trot it out again. That was them replaying it from when he said it for the first time. So,
I've seen him say that a couple of times.
Oh, okay, all right.
Maybe a little while ago. But
that one there was the repeat of the first. But sorry, I apologise.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, well, yeah, good if he's not banging that drum, because that was roundly debunked straight away by someone who just went on to seek and searched jobs in Northland. Coomera pickers, none. So, yeah, I don't know why Luxon thinks that the solution to this is creating a generation of itinerant young people moving from town to town for menial level Coomera jobs, and at the same time that they're talking about what they're doing with KiwiSaver, this mythical 21-year-old on $65,000 a year. They don't know what they're talking about, and when an expert comes along to maybe help them out, they ignore them. They don't want to do the reading, they don't want to do the work, and they don't want to listen to anybody that has a different idea from the vibes-based policy that they have been rocking since day one.
Because of course they were elected to lead, never to read.
Read.
That's where they were at. Let's have a look at the second part. It's only 90 seconds. As I've said it twice. It's a strange selection having Brad's, but it does sound like more of a, say, sort of social issue, but I guess there is definitely financial things to talk about there as well. Let me just take this back to the start and push play.
Yeah, I mean, the government's not bound by this MSD analysis, right? But are you surprised that actually they haven't taken more heed of it?
Well, I think one of the challenges here is trying to sort of dissect exactly what the likely outcomes might be here for young people. I mean, MSD has noted in their analysis, the potential risks, like you stated, of potentially longer term benefit dependency, the fact that you might have people that sort of more disengaged totally with the system. Previously they were looking for work, but now they might just not be looking at all. There was a comment in the MSD report that didn't have any full backing of too much analysis, that because of how all of this could play out behaviourally, you could see young people that are a bit more incentivised to, have children, because then they don't get caught by this policy. The challenge with all of this, though, is that in the very same breath as me telling you...
it's not just that, though. I mean, when this first came out, we talked about back in the 90s what students were doing, getting married. If a 19-year-old is married, then they don't come under that either. So you will have people, I think it'll be a small percentage of people, but getting married and getting pregnant, or as a way to fund themselves. Because then the other thing you've got to remember is if your parent can't support the 19-year-old, the hoops that you'll have to jump through to be able to prove that. And I know from not personal experience, but from experience when I was at university, and it's still the same now, which I've heard other people go through it, that to actually basically divorce your parents, to be able to prove that they won't support you is a really, really big job, including having the parents involved. So if you're in a toxic or an abusive relationship with a parent, a parental abusive relationship, they basically have to agree to participate in the system to be able to tell the government that they're like that, so this kid can get money. And those kinds of people, do you think they're very keen or very helpful in those kinds of areas? I would suggest probably not. Probably not.
At that point, again, which doesn't have any specific figures, MSD did also say that the behavioural impacts could see young people that feel that they will effectively need to go and find a job a bit more, because now they've lost that support. They don't have any other options. So, look, you can sort of argue it in a sense either way. I guess the challenge, the worry here is, again, where all of these various levels and figures lie.
Yes, there you go, Chewy. Got anything else you want to add to it?
Yeah, I think this is just emblematic of the schizophrenic, scattergun approach that this government has to everything. Like they want the youth in a job, but they've crashed the economy to the point where potential employers aren't willing to take the risk on young people. That the jobs have been sucked out of the regions. They've flooded the workplace with people that have lost their jobs elsewhere. And of course, the youths are going to be at the bottom of the pecking order. Now, a smart government, a government with an understanding of what they've done to the economy and the effects that it would have on the job market, would fucking funnel money into places like the universities and the polytechs, like because they've identified the problem, right? They don't want people just on the benefit. They want them in work, or they want them in training. So train them. But we've gutted the universities and the polytechs as well.
And taken away that first year free and put it into the last year free.
Yep.
What perfect could there be? I think when that happened, I was like, nah. But actually, in the current economic climate, first year free would make much more sense than last year free. Because it's a downturn. Get more people into education, give them the first year free.
100%. And look, there's like people go, oh, well, what if they sign up for a course just to not be punished by this policy? Then they're doing something. Remember, this government thinks that if you're on the benefit, you're just staying at home playing PlayStation. That's the only thing that you can be doing. So if they're doing literally anything else, it'd be a fucking win. Like they'd be learning something, they'd be training for an industry, they'd make themselves more employable, all of this sort of stuff. But what this government has done is flooded the field, crashed the economy so employers don't want to employ more staff or take a risk on someone for their first job, and slammed the doors on any other option, and left these guys standing out in the middle of a wide open field and going, why aren't you doing anything? We're coming after you. We're coming after your parents as well, because we have set that bar so low that you are absolutely going to get fucked by this. And I don't know if it's so spectacularly evil that they've thought of every loophole and closed everyone, or so utterly inept that they have just set up this perfect trap for people.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't really know. I mean, this is one of the things when I've said last night and nights previous to that, we don't trust this government. This government is untrustworthy. And this is just some of the examples of the kind of thing they're doing and what they've done and the things they've put in place where they're saying, that water is dry. It's dry water. Put your hand in it, it'll come out dry. It's the opposite. Literally, they're saying we shouldn't have people long-term on benefits. And the advice is, if you do this, it'll put more people for long-term on benefits. They're not that dumb. I mean, we can make a joke about it. We can laugh about it. They're not that dumb. This is a mathematical calculation. They're doing this on purpose. They're doing this for a reason. And the only logical reason I can think about is they gave all that money away. They gave all that money back in tax and it just all went and they need to get some of it back. And they're taking it in part from the poorest, youngest, vulnerablest people in the country, whether you're in the disability sector, whether you're, the 20 hours free childcare is gone, and that's a rigmarole to get through. Whether it's leaving smoke free, getting rid of smoke free 2025. So, people who are going to die sooner now because of the legislation, they're getting it from young people, they're getting it from disabled people, they're getting it from families, they're getting it from addicts, and they're giving it to landlords.
The only thing that makes sense to this, they're not inept. They know exactly what they're doing. The whole thing and every aspect of what they're doing here with the economy, with the job market, with the youths and the penalties and all of that sort of stuff, is their backers, their supporters, make money when the wage market is depressed. They don't want the minimum wage to go up as much as they want to say, hey, look, Kiwis get ahead and we want, it's not geared at us. It's not geared at the average wage holder. You can be dead set in the fucking middle, and you are paying tax on every dollar you earn. You are paying tax on everything you spend. You are now having to, fight tooth and nail to get assistance with putting your kids into daycare. They're fucking with the curriculum. It's just a full court press. And I look, the only thing that is probably keeping our head above water here is my partner and I don't have kids. Mm-hmm. Like I see a friend of mine. He's in a good education job and that sort of thing. But he's got a couple of kids and fuck, I wouldn't want to be him, man. Like shit is tough. And I don't think any of these guys in government, as much as they might fucking signal to us and put out a Facebook post that's talking straight to us, we know times are tough and we just want to bring the cost of living down. They don't give a rat's ass. They just don't. They are lying. They are lying to the average New Zealander. Nothing that they are doing is for you. Yeah. Not a damn thing.
Yep. Let's get to some super chats, Pete says, it'll be fine. Nicola Upson.
It was not fine.
Over Red Rover, been watching at 2x speed. Now it's Mark Mitchell. I think what Red Rover's saying is now we sound like that because your ear gets used to that 2x speed. And now we sound like we're speaking really slowly. I heard someone 21 years old bought a house last year in Taupo. I'm assuming that's Taupo. Mm-hmm. It's always the example we get from there. This one person's doing well. Then you do the background, you find out the help they've had since they were a teenager from the family and the wealth that's in there and yada, 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 yada. Rajan says, in the famous words of a former British Tory MP, Michael Gove, I think the people of this country have had enough of experts. Yikes. Arvid's heard somewhere the 500 new cops deadline missed. Yeah, we knew that was going to happen. And it's in the ballot. Had a friend who applied for independent circumstances for student allowances. She had to yearly prove her mother was still dead. Grief. Those death certificates, how they change after 12 months. If you want to train people, subsidise Kiwi Rail. Says over Red Rover.
Look, that story about having to prove that your mother's dead for a benefit. I've quite often used this term about the harsh machinery of bureaucracy and government. That's exactly what I talk about. You know, you're on a benefit because you have a medical condition that is degenerative or permanent and that sort of thing. And then they drag you in once a year to go, hey, we just wanted to verify that you're still missing both your legs or something like that. This clumsy, mean, heartless bureaucracy. And when you cut the public service and the only metric that you put out to these workers is you have to save money, that's what happens. Like, people poo-poo Jacinda going, you know, it's about caring for people. But when that comes down from the top, that actually has a material effect. Yeah. Like, if they went to people that work for Working Income going, look, you guys know what people are entitled to, make sure that they get their entitlements. And I think when the government comes down and goes, we don't have any money and we're looking at all the money that you're giving away, then it becomes like, let's conceal what these people are entitled to, or let's make them fight for it. Let's make things so difficult that people give up, and we can just chalk that up as a win. And they think that that is a better way to run the social support network of this country than maybe having a conversation with this country's wealthiest, the property owning class, the property hoarding class, because that's an awkward conversation. They want to come down on the people that are powerless, that don't have a voice, rather than the ones that they rub shoulders with. That is wrong.
I could just imagine that caseworker, just seeing if you still don't have legs. Yeah. Person over the other end. Yeah, no, I still haven't got legs. And the caseworker's like, yeah, they haven't like grown back. Because like I've got a lizard and the lizard's legs grow back. Yours haven't grown back? No, they haven't grown back. No. Well, I think we need to verify that. Could you hop your way in here and just show us that you don't have legs? And possibly while you're doing it, get a referral from a specialist, because you can spend a bit more money on the doctors to get a referral to confirm you've got no legs. That would be useful, thank you. And by the way, your benefit's going to stop in a week, but we have no appointments for 17 weeks from now.
I was just going to say that. And that is what it is. That is what it is like dealing with wins.
Yeah. All right, there's a couple more chats that have come in, and then we'll move on to a good news story where Chewy will be happy. I have a bad feeling about AI in this stuff. 15mm Gustavus. As a suggestion, you should do New Zealander of the Year like Eating Media Lunch did. That was genius. The problem is...
Eating Media Lunch.
Problem is... they were geniuses. That's why it was genius. Speaking of geniuses, actually, Chewy, speaking of geniuses, my mouse is really... I think I'm going to have to go to a corded mouse. I'm really getting sick of this thing. Speaking of geniuses, Tanya Waikato in the news today. Advocate fires back at Minister over disgusting schools titiriti list. Treaty advocate and lawyer Tanya Waikato has responded to comments made by Education Minister Erica Stanford over the creation of a list of schools that have committed to upholding Te Tiriti o Waitangi. As of yesterday, 1,306 schools, more than half the schools in the country, feature on what is dubbed Rangatira. Waikato has been publishing a daily update of the list with a map of Aotearoa showing locations of the schools. Stanford was unrepentant when asked by a journalist this week if she was concerned about the response from schools. I think there's a huge, I think it's actually talks. I think there is a huge amount of pressure on the sector, very, very unfair, quite nasty pressure. Thank you, Mrs. Trump. That is very nasty. It's very nasty pressure. That's been put on principals who are ringing me because they've got your phone number. They're ringing me saying that they don't like the pressure that's been put on them. And quite often they're signing up when in fact it wasn't something they particularly wanted to do, but they feel that there's pressure on them from certain people in society. I'm sorry, but my bullshit meter is going through the roof right now.
Do you think that claim is Information Act requestable?
Possibly, yeah. You request any connection between principals and Erica Stanford.
Yeah.
And
how many phone calls has Erica Stanford's office received from principals saying that they're receiving too much pressure?
Yep. She goes on, and I think it's frankly disgusting, the behaviour, creating maps around the country and lists that people feel they have to be on, otherwise they'll be maligned. I think that this kinds of behaviour is awful. So it's awful to say school X is has not yet publicly decided to honour the treaty, right? They're not on, they haven't listed, but it's not horrible that they don't want to continue to honour the treaty. The horrible thing here is the list, not the fact that they want to ignore our founding document. Got it. And I think, we've done that one, haven't we? In response, Waikato denies the list is an organised campaign and says it grew organically from a social media post. The Kura started sending me their letters after I posted Whakatane High School, the Whakatane High School one up. And in the beginning, there was only 5. And I went, oh, that's cool. I'll make a list. So I made a list, she said. On the second day, we had about 60. On the third day, 200. And now there's over 1,200. She said that while she publishes the list as a daily update on social media, the pressure is coming from the schools community. This is not a political party. This is not an activist group pushing these schools to do this. This is everyday mums and dads, kura, teacher, principals, boards of trustees doing this themselves. And I thought, Troy, I don't know if this is the exact clip we played last night on 47 million decibels. But if it is, maybe we should just play it again tonight.
I think there's a huge amount of pressure on the sector, very, very unfair, quite nasty pressure that's been put on principals who are ringing me saying that they don't like the pressure that's being put on them. And quite often they're signing up when in fact it wasn't something that they particularly wanted to do, but they feel that there's pressure on them from certain people in society. And I think it's frankly disgusting, the behaviour, creating maps around the country and lists that people feel that they have to be on, otherwise, they'll be maligned. I think that kind of behaviour is awful. I am here to fight for our kids. That's why I'm here today to talk to you about those education results.
Ko te kōrero a te minita, he kōrero whakaparaha ki ngā kura, ki ngā matua, ki ngā tauira hoki. Nā te mea, kei a rātou tēnei whiriwhiringa, ne? Kei a rātou te mana o ia kura, kia whiriwhiri me tonu ki te tiriti o Waitangi o ka haere ki te tahi atu huarahi rānei. Nā reira, ko tana kōrero i te ata nei, he kōrero kino kia hau, and ko te mea nui kia hau i roto i te mahi o ngā kura i runga i te rarangi rangatira, he mahi whakakotahi ni. Ko tā rātou nei kōrero ki te motu, kia tonu ki te tiriti o Waitangi, ka mahi tonu, and ko tērā te mea nui kia hau. Mō ia kura tērā whiriwhiringa. Kāre mo te minita, kāre mōku, mō ia kura tērā whiriwhiringa.
Subtitles are basically fuck you bitch. That was basically, I just wrapped it up.
And here's the receipts at length. Yeah. If you chuck up my screen there, because Erica's had backup. So this is Sam Uffendel's post, and I found the language interesting. Unions are standing over principles. Now, this man knows something about standing over people, so there you go. Standing over principals and school boards, pressuring them to sign their anti-government pledge. So there you go. Agreeing that you would take effect with te tiriti is anti-government now. And it's frankly disgusting. Now, this is what I mean about he gets absolutely dunked on.
They're very small, so you'll have to read them.
Yeah. So, is that big?
Oh, yeah, that's better. Oh, Tanya's in there herself.
Yeah, Tanya's in there straight away. Lots of reactions there. Look, you may see some of the BHN chat featured here. Nick, Gary, just like, I don't want to say this lightly. Man got dragged.
Yeah.
He got dragged by everyone here. So I actually thought he'd deleted this post. But it's still there because he still hasn't realised.
Well, this would appear to be the definition of being ratioed. Would that be fair?
Oh, God, yes. No one's ever been as ratioed as much as this. But how much so you want to blame the unions despite the unions having no input into this at all? Erica was saying that principals were being forced to sign these things. It's the boards. The boards have agreed to do this because the parents have been asking them to. They feel that it's important.
Let me add, because actually it's not just the principals. I'm going to take the screen back off you because the post from today, oh God, I'm getting annoyed with this freaking mouse. 1367 schools, 54% of all schools in Aotearoa, 21 principals, associations and collectives. So it's not the principals getting pressure. The principals, associations and collectives have signed up. 112 ECS, kindies and kohangareos. And there's the list there. Normally she's got like some Stan Walker or something under it, so we won't play it because we don't want to get taken down. But so 1367 as of 2 hours ago. So we're getting close to cookie time with Seymour. Maybe starting next week. Did I tell you? Did we explain that I'd heard back from Moustache and Milk? They're like, yep.
Oh, actually, no, you haven't.
Moustache and Milk have said yes. They have said there are some logistical issues. They normally only put 30 characters on a cookie. Maybe we can make it shorter. And I'm like, we'll figure it out. We'll do 3 cookies or something, and we'll work it out. And he can have a big feed of eating his own words. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then go back and have a look at the clip when we talked to Tanya on Monday. And there's a clip going around, or I mean, maybe not the small ones, hasn't been released yet, but about getting David Seymour to eat his own words. All right, that's very good, but we're going to keep trucking now unless there's anything else you desperately want to mention again here.
No.
Okay.
No.
Because let's have a look at this, because this goes into the RSB Regulatory Standards Bill, but also Christopher Bishop, who is the person responsible for local government. Is he the local government minister? Not sure. Christopher Bishop,
so. Yes.
Was he? So he was on Breakfast this morning, and they were talking about what the situation was with the councils. I just can't quite remember which one was first. Which one was first? That one or this one? I'll do this one. This might have technically been second, but we'll start it off talking about regional councils being binned. I still do really. I haven't heard anyone in the media ask this. What does this mean legally, Mr. Bishop? Like, people have contracts. People have been employed by the voters for 3 years. How can you, if you just come and cancel it, you're gonna have to pay them all out for the 3 years? And what about all these new jobs you've just put on the backs of mayors? I mean, the mayors didn't win agreeing to do that work. How can you just kind of go, yes, mayors, from now on, this is your job, another 15 hours a week? Like, I'd like to get an answer to all of that. So anyway, the Bish is on this morning with Kieran on Breakfast, and they talked about, amongst other things, Andrew Little, who's now the Mayor of Wellington, his reaction to the announcement. Well,
you mentioned the Wellington Mayor. Andrew Little has called the proposal on scrapping Māori constituencies on 2 regional councils a pretty serious attack on Crown's treaty obligations. Is that fair?
Well, I mean, it's certainly a legitimate view. I'd like to hear from our locally based iwi to form a view on that myself, to be fair, and I haven't yet had that conversation. But I know that that's what a number of people have actually said. There is one thing that I do want to touch on that Chris just mentioned there is that he's saying that it's essentially up to each region. But at the end of the day, the Minister on the current proposals has the sign-off. And that's the bit that I'm concerned about. We have to bring, if there is going to be change, we've got to bring communities along with us. We've seen in the past what happens if that isn't done that way. And what I don't want to see is amalgamations forced on regions without buy-ins, because I tell you what, the last time that happened in 1989, and people are still talking about it, that is true. You go to certain parts of the country, as I did when I was Minister, and they're still talking about when they were forced in with other regions and it didn't work and it's still not working. Let's not make that same mistake.
Chris, I do want to move on to
Kieran makes it. Can I just respond to that? I mean, he makes a good point. I mean, I live in Batoni and Eastbourne. There's still people talking about the abolition of the Eastbourne Borough Council from 1989. However, it was only by some sort of decisive central government action that those reforms happened at all. And the reason why we haven't seen any real local government reform since 1989, despite repeated attempts and calls from local communities, is that actually it's really hard for a kind of bottom-up change. So
it does evoke that idea of, well, at least we're doing something. You know, and we've used this example, I don't know, a dozen times on the show, because what the best freeze frame in the world there ever has been is saying right now is he's saying,
hey, you guys,
we've been talking about this for 35 years and we haven't done something, so we're doing something. And the example we always use is, you know, the drowning man, you throw him a cinder block. Like, you've done something, but what it's done is caused the man to drown more quickly. Just doing something is not the answer. Doing the correct thing is the answer. And the feeling I'm getting is this is maybe not the correct thing. We'll keep going.
I think we've got the sweet spot about right. Communities can organise themselves, but there is that central government direction and overlay. And look, you know, the reasonable people can disagree about this, but I think we've got the sweet spot about right.
You can't have extremes either way. You can't have the Minister imposing it, but you can't just leave it to communities, because otherwise we'll stay where we are.
All right, back again. Chewy, your thoughts, if any?
Yeah, look, with this whole thing, like, I think a government that had a plan would come to the table mentioning this to the public.
Yeah.
With the pros of why they're doing it. I haven't seen any yet.
Yeah. Well,
I haven't seen them saying,
this government
hey,
has formed, though, doesn't it? It's done lots of things.
Oh, it does.
In this term that it hasn't earmarked or signaled. In fact, in this next clip we're going to play, I'm not playing it now, I'm not cutting you short. The next clip, Kieran points that out. It's like, these guys basically, he doesn't say this, but these guys have basically got a mandate by saying, we're going to leave councils alone. Those last lot, they were too controlling, we're going to leave them alone. And the opposite. Sorry.
Yeah. It's just, they're not spelling out why they're doing it and what the benefits are for the ratepayers. They're just not doing it. They're just going, oh, we're going to abolish councils. We're not sure what shape that is after we do it, but we're definitely going to do it. It's weird. It's weird, and they don't have a plan for what it looks like after they do it. They're not able to communicate it. So that's leaving people to fill in a vacuum however they want to fill it. Like, it's going to be this utopia, it's going to be the fucking Armageddon, and everywhere in between. It's an odd thing for a government to do.
Arvids points out that maybe Erica's phone call was from Bangers. Possibly. Let's go into this second clip, which is actually the first clip, which is why you heard them saying, oh, previously. This is the Bish again. And yeah, the latest news that's come out today. Oh my gosh, that's not the right one. Sorry. This one. I nearly played the wrong clip. So this is the start of the conversation, and, you know, Kieran responding to this first conversation where the Prime Minister says, pick all the kumara in the world, there'll be lots of jobs, by saying you guys are supposed to be leaving the councils alone. Now, the difficulty is, Kieran also goes, councils need to be sorted out. Sure, they need to be sorted out. So that kind of takes away a little bit, because what he's doing is maybe, Chewy, what you always say this government does is they identify a problem, but then they throw the drowning man a cinder block. That's the problem. So let's have a look at this and hear from Luxon earlier in the year as well.
The government is continuing to face pushback on what's been touted as the most significant shake-up of local government since the 1980s. Announced earlier this week, the changes would see 11 regional councils from across the country axed and replaced by panels consisting of local mayors. Joining us now for more on this, our other political issues, is our dynamic duo, Nationals' Chris Bishop, and here in the studio today, Labour's Kieran McAnulty. Gentlemen, good morning. Chris, I'll start with you.
Morning.
Since you announced this earlier this week, what has the feedback been like from mayors and councillors? Are they worried about their jobs?
Oh, actually pretty good, to be honest. I've had a number of texts from people inside local government who are, quite cautiously supportive, in some cases quite excited about it. I think there is a widespread view amongst people involved in local government that the status quo is not sustainable. We've got a lot of councils, some of them quite small, no economies of scale because of that, and lots of duplication and layers in the system. You've got regional councils who, frankly, are pretty disconnected from their communities, and you've got a whole lot of other territorial, local and district councils as well. Now, resource management reforms are going to reshape some of what they do and how they do it, and so we've taken the opportunity to put some proposals on the table to rationalise and reorganise local government at the same time. I think this has been coming for a while. I mean, the last government did a big report and review into local government as well. There have been various calls from various different regions for this sort of reform for quite some time now. So basically the time has come to bite the bullet, and we've decided to press ahead and go forward. So the feedback's been pretty good. There's obviously going to be quite a bit of debate about it. That's why they're proposal documents. So we haven't, got a fixed view about.
But the thing about it is they are proposal documents, but he has also said the way it operates now, that's the one thing that they will not continue to do. So yeah, sure, they're proposal documents, and I'm not saying it's the best result, but it's not really a full proposal document if you're already saying it has to change, and here's two terrible options. Which one do you want to pick? Right, it has to change. So they're not really, they're proposal documents, but they're not really an open invitation to engage on how it could work. They're like, here's two ways, what do you think? Which is a bit different from an open-ended conversation.
What to do, but we do need to, press on and do something.
Yeah, you're largely supportive of this, Kieran. What are your main areas of concern?
Well, it needs to be noted that the National Party campaigned at the last election promising councils and local communities for more localism and empowering them to make their own decisions. And then we've had a steady flow of announcements that are doing the exact opposite, and this is the most latest one. Having said that, it is true that the current local government system is not fit for purpose. I've said that publicly myself on a number of occasions. If we gave you a blank piece of paper and asked you to design the best system for local government, there's no way you would come up with what we've currently got. So that part we absolutely agree with. There are concerns, and these will come out in the wash, in fairness. They are a discussion document, but we need to continue to get feedback from local areas. But I have had, as a locally based MP and as a former Minister of Local Government, obviously a lot of people coming and getting in touch and expressing their views, and it hasn't been universal support. There has been a mixed response. We're going to have to see what impact this will have on local areas, particularly smaller ones, and how much say they will get in this. I think that's pretty crucial. This should not be imposed from upon high.
Yeah. So basically it's like calling out the way they are doing this, even more so than what they are doing. You made a commitment to give councils and local bodies sort of autonomy, and since then all you've been doing is taking that autonomy away, but acknowledging, Chewy, as I said, that they have identified some changes probably needed. What I hear him saying is just not like this. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, still so weird. But yeah, I think people in the chat are saying, no, it's not weird. This is just part of the plan. They want to remove assets. They want to remove Māori voice and input into how this country is run and how the regions are run and how the environment's treated. And it all fits in there. And Bish, being the world's most boring man, will let that continue on.
One more clip, and this is actually really interesting, and it does fill me with rage. So if it fills me with rage, you might explode. Apparently, Nicola Willis came out today and joined the chorus of maybe we'll run on repealing the regulatory standards bill. So Winston Peters in the week, Nicola Willis today talking about it. So these economic vandals, and it is the correct terminology, because they are actually choosing to burn the house down. So they are arsonists, because they are saying, they being the National Party via Nicola Willis and New Zealand First via Winston Peters, they are saying this is bad legislation. We might repeal it after they voted for it. So they've set the fire and they've gone, we're going to call the fire trucks in. They are arsonists. They are vandals. And it's exactly what Kieran says to the Bish in this piece. Well, it's not exactly. He doesn't quite use those words, but he's a bit more in tune with his sensitive side.
We're going to move on to regulatory standards bill. Chris, Nicola Willis, a National, could join New Zealand First and campaign on repealing the Regulatory Standards Acts at the next election. Is that something you're planning on doing?
Well, she's just making a statement of the obvious, right, which is that we could do. We haven't made any decisions like that. We haven't got our policy in place yet for next year. We're in the middle of governing. I mean, the next election's around a year or so away. We're only 2/3 into this parliamentary term. We'll release policy next year, and let's wait and see where we go. We didn't campaign on. I mean, the facts are these. We didn't. It wasn't National Party policy, right? In 2023, we formed a coalition with.
Neither was Smoke Free 2025. Neither was cancelling regional wards. So when it's convenient, that wasn't our policy, you don't worry about. But when you want to use it as a defence, you say it was. Now, what that says to me, Chewy, is he knows. They know. National knows how bad this is. Because he's basically saying, gosh, no, nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with us. Where it was a government bill, so it's 100% to do with them. This didn't get pulled out of the cake tin. This is a government law, a government bill. So you can't step away from this. If you open the door, National, and something breaks, you own it. More to play, Chewy, but you want to say something first?
Do you remember when we were discussing what got brought up as far as the coalition negotiations? And I think it was either the RSB or maybe it was the Treaty Principles Bill. But the question was asked, was this a red line? This is our most important thing for the coalition agreement.
You're talking about the Treaty Principles Bill when David Seymour said quite clearly it wasn't a bottom line for us.
Yeah, it wasn't a bottom line. We asked for it and we got it. It wasn't a big issue. This is why it's like, oh yep, cool, we've got to form a government with the time's ticking on, knighthood's just out of reach. Yep, sure. What do you want, David? Yep, cool, awesome, right, let's go. Luxon didn't have the political fucking instincts to realize that this whole issue was going to be thermo fucking nuclear.
Yeah.
And now they've wrote it, they pushed it all the way through, they fucking voted for it.
Yeah.
And now they've seen how bad the reaction is, and they want to backpedal, and they want to wash their hands of this. This has got to stick to them like shit.
Yeah. Here's a question for Mr. Luxon, if he ever comes on. When New Zealand First, floated the Treaty Principles Bill and the Regulatory Standards Bill, how much did your National Party actually look into what that meant? Like, did they just go, yeah, you can have your two, we'll have our two, sign, because it feels like, Chewy, they're all going, shit, we didn't want to have a part of that. Meaning that come those negotiations, David Seymour, so tell me about this Regulatory Standards Bill, David. Oh, it's this and that. Oh yeah, that seems okay, I'll sign off on that. You know what I mean? So how's the lesson? It'd be interesting to know from politicians who have negotiated coalitions before. How much work do they do before they sign the line on the proposals that the other guys want to get over the line? Or is Luxon such a poor negotiator that he just went, well, here's our two, so you're allowed two. Those are the two you want? Okay, sure, fine, no problems. Winston, what two do you? Okay, sure, no problems. Tick, 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 tick. With no looking at what they actually were. I get the vibe. I get the vibe that could be the case. It would make sense. Let's keep going because Kieran has a crack as well.
It became government policy, and different political parties have their own different perspectives going into the next election. It's pretty straightforward.
Why agreed with it?
That's so weak. Like, they've only just voted for it a couple of days ago, like last week or something, and now they're saying, oh, well, we might campaign against it, we might not. That's a reasonable thing to say. I don't think it is. If you don't support it, why agree to it and why vote for it? And it's exactly the same with New Zealand First. They stood up in Parliament, both these parties, and they said, this is the good thing to do, this is why we're voting for it. They voted for it, and then successively over a period of days they said, oh no, either we're going to campaign against it or we might campaign against it. What a waste of time.
So you want certainty, right?
There's plenty of things that the Labour Party did between 2017 and 2020 when they were in coalition with New Zealand First that weren't Labour Party policy either. That's the nature of MMP. We live in a mixed member proportional system.
No one is disputing that, but you won't be able to give me a single example where only a couple of days later we've turned around and said if we get voted back in we're going to repeal it. This is the point. Even the Ministry of Regulation said that this bill is going to cost $60 million a year. They've imposed this cost on us because Christopher Luxon didn't have the guts to say no during coalition negotiations right from the get-go, and now we've got to go through this nonsense.
Boom. That would be what the kids called a mic drop about 40 years ago.
Drop the hammer every time, with the perfect level of sass and attitude.
Sass.
It's just like, come on, don't blow fucking smoke, mate. You know this is dumb on TV.
Yeah,
so good.
It's and look, I don't want to continually talk about how the mainstream media is doing a piss poor job, but there's lots of questions that are getting missed out on. I think that should lead a question time somewhere. How much research, what hours, who looked into the Regulatory Standards Bill? What report did you have come back to you before signing up to this thing that you knew what it was? What was it all about? How much knowledge did you have beforehand? Or are we going, after people like Tanya Waikato and others brought the attention of New Zealand to what the RSB was it at that point you went, oh, yeah, this is not good? And it might not even be, it might not be, we don't agree with this. It might just be, this is not good, meaning not good for them. Because they might be smart enough, maybe, that they can actually understand that this will impact their voter base, or they'll impact a portion of New Zealand rather than even caring about it. They might not care about it. They might be like, I don't care. It's all the same to us. We just need to get back in. That's the problem we're about to start to try and solve again, Chewy, getting back in. And it seems that both New Zealand First and National, one of the problems they see to getting back in is being associated with the Regulatory Standards Bill. And sorry, my dudes, you own it, 100%.
Yeah. Anyway, that brings us to National's new slogan for the upcoming election. We stand for nothing. We just want to be in charge.
Let's have a look at some super chats, and let's lock up shop before and then walk out. It's a lock and leave tonight. You know what I'm saying? The pigeon cats. Or it could be the piggy on cats. The pig one cats.
Page.
The
page on cats.
Good idea. Scale up our state services with a massive youth apprentice program. Kiwi Rail, Kiwi Bank through a Kiwi shoe polish for good measure. And wasn't there always there is a brand Kiwi as well. Oh, no, is it Kiora orange juice? And it sells in America and stuff. It's actually not a New Zealand brand, I don't think, but it's called Kiora. Kiora. Yeah, again, from the same cat. How about all regional councils' assets flogged off cheap to knacked mates so they can make profit from us? Asset sales are such a funny thing because National, you don't own them. They don't belong to you. We own them. They belong to us. Don't sell my shit. Right? Don't sell my shit. It's mine. Unless you unless you come to us and say, we're going to sell your shit. If we get voted in, we're going to sell your shit. If you don't want us to sell your shit, don't vote us in. Then I'll still not like it. But you're like, oh, well, they were honest about it. Don't sell my shit without going to government and going to election and telling us.
Well, I mean, this is one of the things that, again, at least as far as I can see, has not been mentioned. Every regional council has a list of assets and liabilities. So how are they going to get divvied up once they're disestablished?
Mm.
You know, I want all of the assets, but none of the liability things. Yeah, cheers.
Cheers. Speedlock says Bish gets texts from counsellors. Who has his number? Does he just hand it out to all? Yeah, it's a bit like Erica, isn't it? I've been on the phone. Principals have been calling me. Oh, the direct 0800 education Erica. Is that what the number is? That line gets used too often. OIA, that shiz.
The best one of those though is David Seymour apparently getting letters from students thanking him for school lunches. Like hell you did.
He means Snapchats. That's what he means. They snapped me. Others, what fire trucks? They're fucking breaking down. Peter says, I've sent an OIA to Ministry of Education. It's on the FYI site. Need to remember Winston changed the meeting room too. Anthony says maybe Tova O'Brien could ask them how many of their principals they'd be prepared to drop in order to form a coalition with ACT. Yeah, there you go. So what are you? Could David Seymour be Prime Minister for 6 months? Could you, Mr. Luxon, would you let David Seymour be Prime Minister for 6? What? No. So you'd rather sit in the opposition benches for 3? Really? What? Yeah. KiwiCo, kids education kits, not New Zealand either. Yeah, KiwiCo is a lot of creators on YouTube. In fact, we were just watching Simone Yetch tonight making some stuff, and she was doing KiwiCo. She often does. All right. Kids are in tomorrow night. I don't know if Magenta's going to be doing it, but Magenta sent me a text today, which is like an unseen sort of breaking story around the puberty ban. I should probably be careful because it may not be verified. But if there is, there might be some more information about that. Like, yeah, that's right. Someone else watched it. Clap hands. I watched it too. Speedlocked. Clap hands. That's what I'm assuming you're saying. That's the Simone Yetch video. I'm assuming because that's what it was about. And a reminder. Friday week there will be no evening show, but there'll be the live event in Dunedin, which we are going to record. We might even use our new BHN camera if we can get it working. Jason might come over tomorrow, because I'm a good technical operator, but I'm not good at doing back end stuff and setting stuff up. Once things are set up, I'm quite proficient. Jason is the guru when it comes to cameras and all that, and he might come around tomorrow, and it'll be Christmas for him because all the packages are getting opened up. Chewy's gone. And so we might even take that along next Friday night and give it a test run as well. For us, it's a bit of a test run, test run for next week. For next year, to see about live events around the country, and that's what it's all about. So there'll be no show next Friday. And then the following Friday, there will be one show, and then that'll be the end for Friday nights. We'll finish up on December 18th. We're just talking about all those things now. Okay, Whānau. Oh, he's back. He's back.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, something went crazy wrong.
Yeah, I came back though.
You turned into some kind of crazy grey face. So anyway. Anything else you want to add before we head off, bro? I was just talking about next week.
Look, I'm looking forward to next week. It's going to be nice to see a lot of people from Otago in a room talking about how much we're getting fucked on our hospital and our healthcare in general. I've had conversation with a few people that were like, it was cool when we marched and we felt like we're doing something, and then nothing happened.
Yeah,
and that might be down to the leadership of our past mayor. So it'll be nice to see how Sophie wants to attack this, and it's going to be great to have Dr. Gary dropping bombs in person,
and Craig.
Yeah. And Craig Rennie also reading the facts to people, and it'd be great to see some of the BHN whānau that can make it down here.
And I mean, there was 35,000 for the Save Our Hospital march. Probably do about the same number in Adjo, I would think. Probably about 35,000 people come along to hear these guys speak.
That sounds fair.
Sounds fair.
I'll run the math.
Yeah. In all seriousness about that, the cafe can hold about 110. So there might be, if it fills up, some outside seating. So if you're in Dunedin today and you know how nice and warm it was, you know, if you believe in the weather gods or whatever, or in the Maori, in Maori mythology, is there like a god of the weather? Someone in the chat, you know, is there like a specific god for the weather? Thor, something. So. Good vibes for that Friday night, and for is it Ra? Arvid says Ra. Ra, no, that is Ra. I thought Ra was anyway. We won't get into that. What we're saying is it would be great to have the same kind of weather next week, because then it can be warm in the evenings and people can sit out on the road as well and chill out there. Thor, people are saying. Okay, that's about us. I think we're done. And we will be with you again Monday night, me and Shui, for our next edition. And Emily and Magenta will see you tomorrow night for their latest edition of Bright and Hairy News. Is it Bright Hairy?
Magenta and Kiwi Bird have answered your question, by the way.
Oh, what have I said? What have they answered?
Who's the Māori god of weather?
And it is?
God, I wish I could put things up on screen. There we go.
Tawhiri Mātia. There you go. Or if you don't want to go there, you can go with Thor. There's another one as well. All right, there we go. So hopefully Tawhiri Mātia will look after us next Friday night and Saturday night, because my house is quite exposed. If there was no wind, it would be useful. If anyone's got any inroads to no wind for next Saturday night, that'd be good as well. Just saying. Alrighty, mighty.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily either this way or that, and will be analyzed by what you and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's Big Hairy News.
Anything else you want to add, Chewy? Anything for the weekend? Anything coming up?
I'm going to go and see Beast Wars tomorrow. Some of you may be aware that I am a fan of the band Beast Wars, and they are playing in Dunedin, so I'm going to go and see the Beast Wars band.
T-shirt. Got the T-shirt already? I can see it. Got the T-shirt already.
I've got the T-shirt. I've got many Beast Wars T-shirts. Maybe I'll come back with another. Who knows?
I'm going to go to a group who is making Christmas packs for vulnerable people this weekend. I'm going to help them pack. I'm going to help them pack for 4 hours. Packages for people who are finding it a bit tough this Christmas. That's what I'm going to be doing this weekend. That means I'm a better person than you, just so that's clear. Is that right?
That's very clear.
All right. Catch you next time, whānau. See you soon. Hooroo.
Cheers, fam.